To New York now, where a former assistant of Sean Diddy Combs takes the stand in his sex trafficking trial. Capricorn Clark tells the jury Combs repeatedly threatened her life. She also testifies Combs wanted to kill rapper Kid Cudi over his relationship with Cassie Ventura. So CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman was inside the courtroom. She joins us live right now to tell us what she heard from Combs' former assistant today. Hi there.
Hi, there was a lot that came out with Capricorn Clark today. This is someone who was a former personal assistant to Combs, but then held various roles in his company over the years. She also worked very closely with both him and his ex, Cassie Ventura. She told a story, for one, about when she says that Combs kidnapped her. This was the day that Kid Cudi, real name Scott Mescudi, supposedly found out that Cassie Ventura had been dating him, and he went to his house to look for Mescudi. She said that Combs came to her house with a gun that day and forced her to go with him. There was also a lot that they tried to do on cross, though, with poking holes in her story. For instance, with that story involving Mescudi, Mark Agnifilo, Sean Combs' attorney, actually brought up a map to show that a car chase, she said, ensued, couldn't maybe have happened because of the way that the roads cut off at the top of that mountain. So a lot of this will end up being the jury perception of these stories. Her accounting of the story with Mescudi was also a bit different from the one that we heard from him on the stand. However, she also testified to other incidents of violence, of Combs charging at her and shoving her, of her seeing him violently attack Cassie Ventura. So she is corroborating those stories as well. But we heard some interesting testimony from her about Ventura, too. She admitted on the stand under cross that she thought that Cassie wasn't actually the greatest performer, so that she had talent and she was a beautiful girl, but her act needed some work. But she also said that Combs was very controlling over Ventura's career, which is something she testified to, and that goes to this element of control that the prosecution is trying to show with that relationship, that he had to approve every look, every event that she went to, every song that she did. She also said that at one point she said to Ventura that she should stop seeing Sean Combs, and that Ventura said that Jay-Z was taken, so she didn't know who else she would date. So there was a lot of variety that came out in this testimony today with Capricorn Clark, and a lot of emotion. She broke down on the stand quite a bit, crying.
Oh, absolutely. Who's expected to testify next?
So we're expecting to hear from someone from the LAPD and the LAFD, the police department and fire department from Los Angeles tomorrow, and that is anticipated to be tied to an allegation of arson. Scott Mescudi, Kid Cudi, says that he believes Combs is responsible for setting his Porsche on fire. This was a threat that Combs had allegedly made to Ventura, and then Mescudi's car was in fact set on fire with a Molotov cocktail. So we're anticipating that we'll see some more testimony related to that. Then there is Deontay Nash. He is a stylist. And then Mia. This is a pseudonym for one of Combs' former employees and a woman who was also supposedly one of his alleged victims.
All right, Katrina Kaufman. Katrina, thank you. Let's bring in CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi to break down the legal strategies playing out in the courtroom right now. We've heard a lot today. Hi, Caroline. You know, we're hearing a lot of graphic testimony about Combs' violence toward Cassie Ventura. So how is the defense framing that?
Yeah, just like Katrina said, the defense did score some points today. It's, a tale as old as time. It's a reframing of the narrative. Today from Capricorn Clark, we saw the prosecutors try to push harder down this road of proving a racketeering conspiracy. The first 2 weeks were really all about Cassie and corroborating that testimony about the horrific abuse that she suffered. And Capricorn Clark certainly did that today in terms of corroborating some of that. But really, we're seeing the prosecution try to get in these other elements, like the arson of Kid Cudi's car, like a kidnapping. We heard for the first time today about an alleged kidnapping. Right off the bat, prosecutors got Capricorn Clark to say that she had been kidnapped. And then the defense's strategy has been to chip away at that. Well, asking about different versions of the story. When you were kidnapped, the allegation was there was jewelry that had gone missing, and Capricorn Clark was then forced to take a lie detector test for 5 days at sort of this, rundown location, and that she was forced against her will. Now, is that kidnapping? Prosecutors, the defense attorneys asked back and forth about, was this really forced? Also about the arson, about the kidnapping that is alleged to have occurred there. Sean Combs allegedly went to Capricorn Clark's home and said, "Get in the car, we're going to Kid Cudi's house," once he found out that she was dating Cassie Ventura. Well, defense attorney said, "Did you get in the car because you were forced to get into the car? Or did you get in because you really didn't want anything bad to happen?" And so that's really what we're seeing here, a reframing of the narrative. Was it really force, fraud, and coercion? Or was it more of, an actual decision on the part of some of these parties to engage in this type of behavior for a calculated cost-benefit analysis?
Yeah, and prosecutors have more to prove here than just Combs' violence. They have to actually see if this all comes back to the crimes at hand. So what do prosecutors need to do to win that case, that part of the case?
Yeah, so definitely remember, this is not just a state domestic violence case. The defense has already admitted to engaging in domestic violence, assault, and abuse. This is a federal RICO racketeering enterprise. So they have to show not only that there was an enterprise and a conspiracy that is an agreement amongst Combs and these upper echelons of his sort of group. It doesn't need to be a conspiracy in law, just a conspiracy in fact. So a group of individuals that act as an enterprise to further a goal. And in this case, the goal was to get these freak-offs, engage in arson, hide his criminal activity. And so they need to prove other crimes, just like we were talking about: arson, obstruction of justice, forced labor. Sex trafficking is also a predicate crime for the RICO conspiracy charge. So all of these elements are going to be pieces of a puzzle. The prosecution said today that their case is moving apace. They may end a week early. I don't know that they will get everything in order to prove every element of that racketeering conspiracy by, in 5 weeks.
All right, Caroline Polisi. Caroline, thank you.